Folks, today I'm out on the Lake Winnebago system doing some sight fishing for panfish through the ice. I'm going to show you where I'm fishing, how I'm fishing them, and the equipment I'm using. All that coming right up. It's barely getting light out. We got one on the board already. Very nice. It's a nice fish to start the day. Check out that nice fish. EMC bullfly jig is what caught that one. Now, is that cool or what? Just love watching them come up under the ice like that to hit it. It's so exciting. Oh my gosh. That is a dinner plate bluegill. That thing was so exciting. Came right up and smacked the bullfly jig. Wow. What a fish. What a fish. Well, I've gotten a few nice fish already, but let's talk about where I'm fishing. So I'm on one of the upper lakes of the Lake Winnebago system, and I'm fishing in a shallow, weedy bay. And as you've seen, I'm sight fishing. And a lot of people ask me why I like sight fishing so much. So with sight fishing, you have an advantage of seeing small fish before they bite. So if you see those small fish, you can just pull your jig away from them, and that way you're not spooking any bigger fish in the area by setting the hook and having a little fish fight below you. So on top of that, you can find gaps in the weeds, which a lot of people like to call fish highways. And fish highways are areas that are gaps in the weeds, little channels and pathways that fish like to swim through all day long. So when I drilled holes this morning, I wasn't just drilling and then setting up. I was waiting to see if there were weeds coming up through each hole I would drill. And if I found weeds, I actually wouldn't set up there. I would drill until I found a spot that weeds would not come up with the auger. That way I know that I'm on somewhat of a clear area where not only I can see my bait and I can fish effectively, but also a lot of fish use those as what a lot of people like to call fish highways. Sometimes they'll duck into the weeds to hide from predators. I've seen that many times while I'm sight fishing if pike or bass come in. But generally you want to find sort of a cut through the weeds, and that way you can fish just along that path that fish are traveling along. There's some good fish down there right now, so we're not going to take long with this guy. There we go. Got him. That shows you why it's nice to sight fish. I pulled the jig away from a little bit smaller one so I could get the biggest fish that wanted to bite in the school. Here's a decent perch. Folks, this guy right here just swam up my ice fishing hole, and this is the little jig I'm using. Bluegills, even perch are liking it, so makes sense now. These little bugs, just imitating them with that VMC bullfly jig. Well, that was another good example of how with sight fishing, you don't need to set the hook on those little fish when they bite. You can just pull it away from them or let them bite it and don't set the hook, and then just when a bigger fish comes by, set the hook on that one. Now that you've seen a few fish caught, let's take a look at what I'm using to catch them. So I'm using these VMC bullfly jigs. They're tiny tungsten jigs. These ones are 1/64 ounce, so they're very light, but they're optimal for sight fishing. Fish in shallow water can be very finicky at times. You want something that's light and looks natural and isn't a very aggressive jig. Now for a rod, I really like a 20 to 24 inch ultralight rod. This makes it so you can sit close to the hole comfortably and you can actually see what's going on in that sight fishing hole. Now I do run 3-pound fluorocarbon line. Some guys will even use lighter than that. I just want to be prepared in case I hook big bass, as that does happen once in a while in these weedy bays. They will hold bass, they'll hold pike, all sorts of fish. So you want to be prepared in case you hook into one of those bigger fish, but generally 3-pound line is plenty for bluegills, perch, crappies, anything like that. Ooh, he gave us a second chance. That's another nice bluegill. And I wanted to tell you about the jigging cadence I'm doing, but let me throw this fish back first. Already got plenty for dinner. But with the jigging cadence, as you've seen so far, every fish I've caught, it's wanted the jig to be constantly moving, and if I've stopped the jig, they've just lost interest and left. Now some days that's not the case. Some days they want the jig sitting still, some days they want the jig bouncing a little bit and then stopping, and then they come up and hit it on the pause. You just have to read and react to what the fish are doing. So as you're jigging, watch those fish, watch how they come up to the bait, how they might back away if you do something they don't like. And if you're jigging like crazy like this right now, and they're just not interested at all, they're staying far away, maybe slow it down, maybe start with just a dead stop and see if any fish come up to that. If not, start working a little bit of hops, a little bit up and down, see if that works. And then if you're doing that and fish are flying in like crazy, try and get more aggressive with it. And again, just read, respond to how the fish are reacting to your bait and how you move it. And you really got to speak the language of the fish in this case when you're trying to catch panfish in the shallows jigging. You really want to watch and react to how they're responding to your jig. Now you've probably picked up on this already, but in order to sight fish, you need a shack. So I used to run the pop-up style shacks, but they're very noisy and they're a lot of work to pop up. So I switched to this one-man flip-over shack, and it's been a game changer for sight fishing because you could just pull the shack along. Oh, hold on. Oh. Can't even talk. Can't even talk about my shack. You know, it is a good problem to have when you can't even finish your sentence because the bluegills are biting that well. Got to stop talking about the shack and keep catching them. Check out that bluegill. Very nice colors to that one. I've already got enough fish for dinner, so we're going to send this one back. In case you haven't noticed, a lot of these fish that are coming in up high are really aggressive, and those are the ones that seem to be biting well. The ones down deep, they'll bite, but it's not nearly as common. Those fish are just not very aggressive. They don't really want to move off the bottom. So sometimes if you drop the jig in front of them, they'll eat it, but a lot of the time they just aren't interested in eating. And it's something I've noticed over the last few years of sight fishing heavily. If you just keep your bait way up high, fish from all around you can see that bait and its silhouette against the ice above them. Whereas if you're keeping your bait way down on the bottom, you're just hoping that fish come along the bottom and see you as they swim by, but you're not getting nearly the same drawing powers if you fish way up high and have all those fish around you able to pick out your bait and its silhouette against the ice. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about how I sight fish for panfish on the Lake Winnebago system. Now listen, I got some fish to fry, I gotta get home, but there's a lot more ice season left. See you next time. Want to see more videos like this one? Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my latest videos. For up-to-date fishing reports, find me on Facebook by scanning the QR code.